Hello and welcome to Blockchain Gaming World with me, John Jordan. So we're going to look at some on-chain activity, the most popular blockchain games. So we're looking for, we're just into June, so really the first 5 months of 2025. So we're going to go through a few graphs, a few different sort of ecosystems to get an idea of what's been going on in terms of these games. This is what we're looking at in terms of sort of the most popular games. So doing these videos in the past, Pixels has been the most popular game. At one point a year ago, was doing over 1 million daily active unique wallets, which is the vertical scale. As you can see, it's come down pretty substantially. So at the start of 2025, it was around the 300,000 mark here, and now it's down under 50,000. So come down a lot, particularly here in April. Partly that's because they've been changing some of their reward structures. The problem with lots of blockchain games is how you balance the ability to sort of extract value, often get rewarded in tokens. How easy you make that. Obviously, you make it too easy, then lots of people and potentially lots of bots come in and extract your value. Make it too hard, and obviously you sort of restrict the number of people playing the game, or people feel like it's not worth playing the game because they're just doing it to extract value. So a bit of a bad balancing act. Pixels clearly have decided that they want to be quite hard about this, and they only want people who are sort of playing the game because they want to play the game rather than extract. They're doing a few things around that. They actually launched a new staking system, which has worked in terms of the token price. At least it's increased the token price, and that's a big thing they're doing sort of external to the game. So it's nothing to do with the game, it's more to do with the pixel token. But they are looking to do some sort of rework some of the reward structure in the game, which they have actually been doing, attempting for a while. But we'll see. But they're basically down sort of to a sort of all-time low. They started out in November 2023, obviously it's sort of zero when they launched on Ronin, but they've gone all the way up and come all the way down again. They're stable around sort of 50,000, but we'll sort of see how that one plays out. Also see in yellow here, Nine Chronicles. So again, this is a game that at the start of the year was closer to 100,000 daily active unique wallets, and it's come down again, so roughly around the same as Pixels, a bit lower maybe, sort of 40,000. They've not made so many changes, but they were having a sort of a sort of campaign, a sort of seasonal campaign that was actually a bit more complicated than that. It actually was running on a sort of different version of their blockchain, so they were sort of like running two. People could play two versions of the game, one on different blockchains. It's something that they do because they have their own chain infrastructure. And as they switched the sort of second one off, the reward one off, here in February, you can see it came down. The transactions came down a lot. It's an idle game, so I think they find it quite hard to onboard new people. And with idle games, over time, people tend to drop off. So that's it's been live for a long time. So again, as with Pixels, it's sort of trying to find the balance of what they're trying to do with it. They are going to be launching new games using the same token and all this sort of stuff. So we'll see where these games end up. They're not going to zero, but they obviously are down quite considerably on where they were. In green and red here, we have Axie Infinity in red and Alien Worlds in red and Axie Infinity in green. So Axie Infinity has been pretty steady throughout this period, over 100,000. Alien Worlds is sort of interesting, as it was sort of at one point it was the same as Nine Chronicles. They were sort of to a degree sort of one was higher and the other was higher. But Alien Worlds has sort of accelerated away clearly because Nine Chronicles has gone down. But Alien Worlds is now doing more daily active unique wallets than Axie Infinity some days. So again, this is sort of like a sort of idle world, but they're trying to build out a whole bunch of sort of DAO stuff, and it's quite interesting what Alien Worlds is trying to do. Not so much on the game, not really in terms of gameplay, but in terms of having shared assets and allowing people, the community, to build things out. With Alien Worlds, there's always the sort of concern how many bots they have in there, because it's the base activity is very easy to bot. Sort of similar with Axie Infinity, not so much about the botting, or it is to some degree about the botting, but Sky Movies is giving away a lot of Axie tokens to encourage this activity. So how many people are playing games and how many people are actually just sort of collecting AXS token, hard to judge at the moment. But as we can see, at least from this high end, at the moment things are either sort of steady or going down. So the one exception here is MapleStory N. So that launched in mid-May. The orange dots. We'll look at that in a bit more detail. So we'll move on. I've got another graph on that, or two graphs on that later on. Okay, so just to sort of get a bit of this sort of it shows the same thing with the individual day data that can sometimes look a bit sort of confusing. So if we do, this is trailing 90-day on-chain activities. So basically, you take the previous every day. You include that in the previous 89 days and put them together, and so you just get a smoother curve. So we can see here. This is going back a lot further. So this is going back to April 2024. So Axie Infinity actually started really low at the start of 2024 and built up. And actually went quite high and has come down a bit. Alien Worlds, we can see, has been a steady growth, and then Nine Chronicles sort of started low. At some point, was actually higher than Alien Worlds here. At this point, here was actually higher than Axie Infinity as well, but now it's come straight down again. So this just sort of shows you a more steady, sort of a smoother curve, so you can see what's going on. And I guess somewhat interesting here in sort of. Q4 last year, they were all roughly about the same. Although you can see obviously very different transactions, but trajectories. But all three of these games were at about sort of over 80,000, and then two of them have continued going up, and one's gone down. Okay, so this is looking at MapleStory N, so the Genesis blockchain. So this is the blockchain that MapleStory N runs on, and also the marketplace, the MapleStory Universe marketplace. So obviously you have a blockchain, you can run multiple applications on there. In this case, this is just the blockchain for MapleStory. MapleStory Universe is the ecosystem, and that includes MapleStory N, the game. So it launched, as I said, mid-May. Just looking at the sort of block explorer for Avalanche. This is an Avalanche L1. We'll look at that in a bit more detail in the next graph. But we can see here very steady growth. So the first day had about sort of I think about 14,000 wallets, and yesterday it peaked at over 80,000. So we can see there's a characteristic peak. This is happening every Sunday. So we can see every sort of 7 days there's a peak, but also the overall trend is rising. And it won't take long if we sort of go back to the first graph. MapleStory is here, so it's already doing more than Pixels and Nine Chronicles. If it keeps growing at this rate, it will break through 100,000 very in a couple of months at least at current rate, and then it would be the most popular blockchain game. In a sense, that's not surprising because Nexon is a very big company and MapleStory is a very big gaming IP, particularly in Southeast Asia. So we'll see. You have to always be a bit careful with on-chain activity. Obviously, people can do transactions for lots of different reasons, so you can get big spikes. This is probably around people sort of claiming rewards or something like that on a weekly basis. Yeah, stuff goes up and down, but this is at the moment, this is sort of the one success we're seeing, and when you start driving tens of thousands of daily active wallets, and that's quite considerable. And obviously people in the past have done hundreds of thousands, or even Axie's done millions in the past, and they weren't sustained. That's always the problem with blockchain stuff, is at the beginning people are excited and you can extract value, and the assets are maybe worth money. Over time that tends to drop away and people move on to other things, but we'll see. Also thought I'd do this for Avalanche. So there are various blockchains using Avalanche. So these are now called their own L1s, but they're sort of connected to the Avalanche ecosystem. There's a bunch of gaming focused L1s on Avalanche. So we have this blockchain from MapleStory, and then we have Beam in red. So we can see this is very sort of steady. There's a few games running on this. They have their own marketplace called Sphere, which actually also links to Immutable. So that's been very steady, about 15,000 as a peak here. This is DeFi Kingdoms, which is just it's a game. It's been going around for a while on various different blockchains. Again, very steady, about 10,000. Then we have the Guns or Gunzi blockchain from Gunzilla Games, which is what Off the Grid is running on. So it did have a sort of little peak here, got up to about sort of 15,000. It's gone back down again. Not the confusion here, but the situation here is the moment most players on Off the Grid are running on the testnet, and testnets obviously don't have real value on them. They're sort of there to test the technology. So this is the Guns mainnet, and over time, Gunzilla is sort of migrating people over. So it's not very clear how many wallets they've migrated over. They're doing it in stages. I think they've done tens of thousands of wallets have been migrated. Even if your wallet's migrated, maybe people aren't active on it yet, so we haven't got a really good idea. But Guns is basically the Off-the-Grid game. Now on the testnet, they've been claiming 250,000 daily active unique wallets. Clearly, to me, I don't think they're going to see that on the mainnet. Obviously, they would say they haven't migrated everyone over yet, so hard to judge. But something to keep an eye on. But at the moment, it's pretty low. Final thing I looked at is Immutable. So Immutable, again, a big gaming blockchain. Doesn't really have a lot of games on it at the moment that are doing a lot of activity. So these are two that I've highlighted. And these are interesting in the sense that Guild of Guardians is Immutable's own game. So it has two games, Guild of Guardians and Gods Unchained. Gods Unchained doesn't really has, I think, still most of its assets on an old blockchain. This is the Immutable ZK EVM chain rather than the Immutable X chain. And actually, for Guild of Guardians, it's been going for over a year now. Sort of hitting the nadir of about 2,500 daily active unique wallets. That's risen up a little bit, got over 4,000, but not really very many. It peaked when it game launched about 15,000. And we can see here Raven's Quest. So this was a game that they were really pushing. It's actually, both of these are quite nice games. If you like, Guild of Guardians is a mobile sort of squad RPG. Raven's Quest is a PC sort of pixel RPG. I've played both of them. I think they're sort of pretty decent games. But as you can sort of see here, they don't really have a lot of. There's not a lot of sort of token value stuff in them, so you're not like it's not play to earn games. And in both of them, they got up to about 15,000. So we can see where Raven's Quest launched in mid-March. Went over 10,000. Had some peaks here, 14, 15,000. But it's coming back down, and it's actually back down under 5,000. So sort of the same as Guild of Guardians. It's sort of exactly the same trajectory as Guild of Guardians. Guild of Guardians didn't sort of drop quite so fast, but it's just interesting with Immutable, which has all these games on it, but very few that are actually driving. Sort of nothing at the moment that's over 10,000. And as I say, these are quite decent games that you would think people would be playing, but not the case yet. Obviously, other things going live on Immutable that may change that in the future, but at the moment, it looks like these games aren't sticking very well. Anyway, that's all we have for the time being. Do some more at the end of June. See you then.